Welcome to the Binder and Brew podcast, the show that takes shiny cardboard way too seriously. My name is Joel. This is Al, and we're just going to get straight into it. Al, how are you doing this evening?
I'm frustrated. I'm not even going to hold it back tonight. I'm doing good, but as we will come to find out, I'm incredibly frustrated.
I was going to say I can already sense the tension and the fire, like the eagerness just to get into this pod before we even started recording, just to kind of let loose a little bit. We've got our brews to get through first. Today it is Indian and Costa Rican, so I've stepped it up a little bit. Although in reality, I've added milk, so it kind of spoils it a little bit. But cheers.
No, you said you were going to get a bit more creative with the coffee, so you've clearly held up your end of the bargain, so that's good to see. This evening, I've gone with what's described as apple crumble loose leaf tea.
Apple crumble. I mean, it just sounds like it looks like apple juice, really.
It tastes like warm apple juice. It's actually really nice.
Yeah, I bet that is pretty good. Anyway, you know what? I'm not gonna hold you back any longer. Let's get straight into this. Today we are recording on Wednesday, and today we had a Pokemon drop. Now, before we get into specifically today's, we actually had one earlier in the week as well, and we're just gonna discuss the topic of Pokemon Centre drops. Al, why don't you take us away? Because Monday I couldn't get to a screen, so I was completely absent from that drop. Why don't you just take us through your story?
Yeah, so Monday evening, I managed to get a notification come through on my phone that it was time to join the queue. As I've mentioned on a previous pod, myself and Pokémon Centre have a very, very poor relationship in that I always struggle to get the drops. And that's not changed. In the last 2 years or so, I've only managed one or two of the product releases. So come Monday, I'm at work, but I see that there's the drop, so I'm on the way home and I've got it on the phone and I'm waiting, and I seem to get through okay. Realize I can't then see the stock. Turns out it was the Mega Charizard X and Y tins, but there were warning signs that I didn't really see. In that, I don't know if anybody else had the same problem. I couldn't see the tins until I'd looked all the way through onto like one of the back pages of the TCG on the site, and I looked at it and went, oh, okay, we were all expecting Pitch Black at some point this week. Well, a Charizard tin would have been nice. And I think this was really one of those moments where you kind of think, oh, well, that's okay. When Pitch Black comes around, I'll be much more inclined to sort of stick at this, but it's not there now. They've sold out. I'm done for. But you didn't see them at all. I don't think, did you?
I didn't get a chance to go on it, and like as I have done before on this podcast, I think you're playing this down a little bit because of what's happened today. Because I do remember a couple of exchanges of messages when it was happening on Monday, and there was a lot of frustration there. But the problem is that frustration has just been completely outweighed by today. So when we go through today's experience, Pitch Black hits the Pokemon Center today, and I'll take you through my story. So I saw a notification for it, but it took me about 5 to 10 minutes before I could actually get to a computer. So, I got to the computer and I sat down and I joined the queue, and I actually wrote down the exact time. I joined the queue at 5:23 this afternoon. And I think most notifications were going out around like 10 past, 5:15. So I was a little bit late to it. That's from what I know anyway. My queue said 5 hours and 29 minutes. And that's not unusual because when I've done these Pokemon Center drops in the past, very often it starts really high and then it starts chopping its way down. People jumping out, issues, as we'll get into. But yeah, it started out at 5 hours 29, but I just completely ignore that number because it's never realistic. I carry on just working, funny enough. And I had a little look about 7 o'clock and it was about 10 minutes to go. And in the past, certainly the most recent ones, weirdly, the ones that are like the Charizard tin or kind of like those ancillary products that get put on, but not the main sets. For some reason, when I have joined the queue on those over the last month or so, I get to the product page, I get it in the basket and I go to pay and then it freezes, it doesn't go through, I get an error. So I kind of expected the same thing today. And when I did eventually get on, it was there on the homepage. Not uncommon for me this, to be able to put it into the basket. I put it into the basket. I went to pay. I actually had my wife next to me and I was like, look, what's about to happen? It's about to freeze and stop. And then it went through. And at 7:14, so 7:15, basically 2 hours later, or just shy of 2 hours later, I was able to get the product. Like from my perspective, and after hearing and seeing a lot of stuff, and you're going to go into it a little bit from your end, I seem to be incredibly lucky with the window that I had. But if it was an isolated case, if I'd spoken to no one, it would seem like the drop went flawlessly. But let's be honest, that has not been the case. So Al, why don't you just take us through how it went with you?
So this evening, again, I was lucky enough to be in a position where I was on my phone when the notification came through. So I got this about, it was just past 5:10. I've jumped in the queue, and to start with, things look really promising. It came up saying around 50 minutes, but absolutely it's never 50 minutes. And it was probably around 5:45 where it loads and I'm suddenly on the Pokemon homepage. And I'm thinking, great, I'm in. This is great. Just go to new releases, nothing there. Okay, well, let's go to the TCG main page, sort by newest, nothing there. So I'm thinking, well, was this a mistake? We were all expecting Pitch Black today. I was looking to see, so I'm searching Pitch Black, I'm searching Booster Box, nothing through. Kicks me then to the back of the queue. It's come
Did
up
it
saying
kick you because you were like not doing anything on the site, or it just after a certain time it just kicked you?
it seemed to be more time than anything, because I clicked through a couple of pages. I then went to search what I searched Pitch Black, and it came up saying no results found. I then clicked home, and it was when I clicked home again, it then put me back into the queue. So then it comes up saying 8.5 hours, or I think it was around that point. And at this point, I'm finishing at work, so I'm saying, right, well, time for me to go. I'm going to wait for this because I can get home in 20 minutes or so. Get home, check my phone, and it's still in the queue around 6 hours. And thinking, okay, well, it's coming down now. Let's wait and see. But it's so frustrating to have been on the site itself without any access. So then I took a chance, and I looked through some of the notifications that I've had come through on X and through some of the Discord messages that I'm in. And it's suddenly, oh, you have to click this specific link to get through. And if you've already been through, you might be lucky. So I thought, well, I'm going to try it and click one of the links. And it takes me through to the booster box, and it says there's some available. So I've clicked on it. It seems to be slow. It's clunky, but it puts it in my basket. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm about to get really lucky here.
Wait, so do you just skip the queue completely that you were in?
So this is where for a minute, I thought I'd looked out completely. I thought it had taken into account that I'd already got through before. But this is what I was sending to you, because it put it in my basket. And just as I was clicking checkout and it asked for me for the payment details, it all goes down. We get the maintenance sign come up, and that's about it for my night then, because by the time the queue's back up and the maintenance seems to have subsided, the word through the group chats is that everything's gone. And I just think, first of all, I am pleased that you managed to get something, because, at least one of us has got something out of this. But having a look then on like I say, on X and on the chats, there are so many people, it seems to be, in my position. And I just end up thinking, this can't be the way that it has to be for people. And I know that has to be systems in place because of people taking advantage of websites through bots. But this, for me, is just not the best way. It really gets me down each time, and it's something that, like I say, I've not had success with any of these drops. The last one I had success with was I got a single ETB of Chaos Rising, and that's been it for like the last 5 or 6 drops. So it just begs the question, when is it going to change for most collectors?
It's interesting because you used your phone. Like, I've never had any success with my phone since they've had this queuing system. I don't know whether it's the internet that I've got, or the browser, or whatever, but I've never, when I tried with my phone, like, it would have been a while ago now, because as soon as I was failing with that, I switched to only doing it on a PC. But then, even then, there was a point where if I'd used Chrome, it would never work. So now I literally use like Microsoft Edge, if that's what it's called anymore. I use that for nothing else, only Pokemon Centre drops, because that's the only thing that I know I've had some success with. To be honest, I've not looked into whether that is the case. It's just one of those that, it's like my lucky pants type thing. It's worked when I've used that. But saying that, as I said, in the past, it has failed on some of those kind of like mid drops between major sets. So I did a little bit of research before the pod of some of the other kind of content creators who have posted about today, and it does seem that there was an early window where the product wasn't on the website, which seems wild that you would put a queue up, which they must know. They know that is the trigger for everybody to jump in. It's not new, right?
Yeah.
They've been doing it for a long time now. So they put a queue up. So then people get through that queue, and then there's no product there. It seems crazy. And the only way you can access it is through links that may be distributed around Discords and Instagram groups or X if you happen to be following those people. But your average person is not following those people. But they may hear from a friend that, oh, Pokemon Center queues up, they jump in, but they're not going to have these links. So the average person is going to be disappointed. Then there was this like sweet spot window, which for my luck, I happened to fall in because by 20 past 7, literally 5 minutes after I had purchased, that's when the maintenance kicked in. And we've never seen the site literally crash before. And that's exactly what we got. And then I think there's periodic crashes from there. Like it was just a shambles, really. I mean, I'm lucky, but looking at it from, through your eyes and also from what I read, it's got to be up there as one of the worst ones. Like they must have like, I don't know what they've changed, but in the past, it's never been perfect. It really hasn't been perfect, but it's been better than this. So why has it got worse? That's what I don't understand.
And I know it's going to come across that I'm salty or I'm not seeing it from the other side, but I'm gutted because my only access to this now is to either queue outside of Smith's at a stupid o'clock in the morning or I pay scalper prices. And knowing my luck, it will probably be that I will overpay for product that I, feel I should have the same access to as everybody else. It's a good point that you make about the desktop website access, though. It's just not something that I can realistically do in the timeframes that I've got. Most nights I get back 6:30, 7 o'clock and I've got to prepare tea and things like that or help out. It's just not something that I can do as readily as some people otherwise do. And if that gives them an advantage, then so be it. But I'd like to think these are things that they take into consideration. I think the whole system is a shambles. At the moment, it just feels like there's no winning.
Here's the big concern: pitch black. To be
Right.
fair, the Darkrai great card, there's been a decent amount of hype around Abyss Eye. It's been pretty popular in Japan, but it's not the 30th anniversary. How is this system going to cope?
Well, not even that, but you've got the 30th, you've got the Rayquaza set. It's just looking dire for all sets going forward. I think there's an argument that yes, this pitch black set is slightly better than maybe Perfect Order and Chaos Rising that we've already had come through. But are you telling me that the demand is going to be better when it comes to the sets that are to come? I very much doubt it. I think a lot of people are put off by this sort of thing. Just as my hopes get built up, they're shot down again pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It really is. And it does make you wonder that I actually don't have noted down the release of Pitch Black. I imagine it's in a good amount of time, maybe end of July, something like that is just a wild guess from me. If that is the case, if it is another month and a half away, why not give it a bit more time, get a bit more product in? I mean, it might not be as simple as that, right? Because
Right.
I'm not the other side. You don't know the complications that they have. We have to think of it from their perspective a little bit. But that all the pre-orders are very much quite a long way in advance of the sets being released. It is good that they don't like take your money till the time. I think that's a real positive from Pokemon, and rightly so. You basically just book in the pre-order and then you pay the week that it gets released. That is good, but it's just a long time until we get that release. Maybe give it a little bit longer, and then bring everything at once. And as I said, that will maybe give people more of a chance. It might just be the limitations of the website, right? It's not free to set up these websites, but I can't imagine they can't cover the cost given what Pokemon's like these days. Making assumptions.
Have they ever released the numbers on traffic for the websites, anything like that? Is that something that's
You
public
could
knowledge?
you could dive into kind of the back end of the site and see. And there have been millions in the queue in the past. I don't know about this one. I
Mm.
didn't look, but I think there's a way to be able to look at the source code. I think while you're in the queue and you can see. I know that like some of the US queues have been wild compared to ours as well on the Pokemon Center. But yeah, something needs to improve because like you said, it really does leave a bit of a sour taste in the mouth of the people that support Pokemon and have a love for the game, and like collector's fatigue happens, and it's just things like this that just add to it, and it can be a real put off.
And again, I want to reinforce it's purely because I feel that people take advantage of this system, that I feel let down by it. There's not really any other way to put it. It's that if I felt the system was fair and I was missing out through other means, let's say I missed the drop timing, or there's a lottery system that I've missed out on, which we'll come to a bit later on. I can understand that because it would seem fairer. This just seems like it's a failing system rather than a system that's fair. So people are going to resent it more.
I'd be interested for Pokemon to do some kind of announcement when the site crashes and to be transparent as to why. Like with most, big software companies, if a software were to break, go down, or, if your power were to go down, National Grid will explain what the issue was and it will let you know. All we know is just the site crashed
Mm.
and people weren't able to access. So it would be interesting to actually get a little bit back from the Pokemon Center or like Pokemon in general, just to get an idea of what caused it today.
It would be nice, but I can guarantee it now. It's probably not going to happen.
No, definitely not. It's not going to happen. We're living in a dream world there.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it, right? You mentioned kind of a lottery system, which is what Amazon sort of does. They do the
Mm.
invites, right? Do you think that is a better system? The way, so like for those who don't know or have never kind of requested an invite on Amazon, they have the products up. You can go on, you can request an invite, and then essentially you will await an email. If you are lucky in the ballot for the products that they've got available, you'll be sent an email and then you have a certain period of time in which you can purchase. I've been pretty unlucky recently. I haven't had anything for like 6 months probably, but I had a string of things where I've had them before. But it seems like on the face of it, but I guess we're going to dig in a little deeper. But on the face of it, it seems a fairer approach. What do you think?
I agree. On the surface, it appears to be a better system on the fact that you've got perfectly good access to the ballot, and then things seem to be relatively fair from that point. It's then pot luck as to which ones you pick up. The only thing I'll mention is I also think I've been either unlucky or have just not received any product for about 6 to 8 months, despite me finding as much as I can and accepting every invite. So then part of me thinks, is that a system that is now being taken advantage of as well? Possibly, because it sounds selfish, but you want the system where you have the fairest, but also the most access as a collector. We're not wanting to buy masses and masses of sealed product and store. We're not looking to buy masses of boxes to rip. We're just after a fair share. And both systems for me at the moment feel like that's not really happening. It just seems like, for me personally, Amazon seems the better option just because of the access that seems to be, or was at least, available for a time. Now, there might be people out there, and please let us know if Amazon is working better for you, and if you've had product from it recently that's fair, get in touch, let us know. And at the same time, if you think the Pokemon Center system is better and you know how the drop systems work and you're having luck with that, please let us know, because I think most people will probably say the Amazon system does feel fairer, but I'm not sure.
It is a tough one because you can manipulate both,
Mm,
almost certainly. Like Amazon, you can multi-account if you wanted to. All you need is different like payment cards, and you can use drop boxes, so you can use them in different locations. So like
yeah.
you can game the Amazon system if you want, and we all know that the Pokemon system can be gamed. I'm kind of torn a little bit here because it's a hard one to fully compare the two, because there's obviously a lot greater supply with the Pokemon one. And I have had more success over the last year getting product from that, but it's no surprise because they are delivering their own product here. And Amazon is going to be of a smaller pool. And obviously their system actually allows quite a large ballot to be created because they'll run it from a good period of time. You don't have to rush on the first second to try and get into a queue. You've got a period of time in which you can do the invite, and then within something like 72 hours, they'll run the invites, maybe even shorter than that sometimes. And then, whether you're lucky or not. But you are going to be a very small fish in a massive ocean there. Whereas Pokemon is like, if the system didn't break, then you do have probably a better chance of getting something. It's just when you have
Mm,
days like today, it just feels incredibly unfair. So I'm a bit torn as to which one really works best. But I was kind of thinking about this. I was thinking about other situations or other events where the demand is so high, and you've got concert tickets, similar sort of thing. jump into a queue. I've had problems with them in the past. Football tickets, I've had problems with them. So nowhere really has like a foolproof system. London Marathon, applying for the London Marathon, you apply for a ballot. I've done it 5 or 6 times, failed every single time. So like, I'd be pretty aggrieved if I went down the ballot route and I didn't get anything 5 or 6 times compared to,
Uh,
battling it out with Pokemon every single time with their queues, but maybe getting a product once or twice. So it really is difficult to pick a system because I don't think anything is perfect out there.
yeah. And I think what I've got to remember is times have changed. And part of me still quite fondly remembers walking into my local card store and there being boxes everywhere. And when I could afford it, I'd pick up two, three, even four booster boxes of certain sets at a time without any time pressure, without queues. I could walk into a card shop sometimes 2 or 3 days after release and, hardly any of them have been touched. So in my head, that's still the standard that I expect it could go back to, but being completely realistic for a second, that's a long way off. We are now in a completely different world where demand is completely running the show. And this is the result that we get. And you actually make a really good point that it's not just limited to Pokemon cards now. And I think you're absolutely right. No one has a system that I can think of now that has it right.
Yeah, it's difficult because as soon as that, we've spoken about it a lot on the pod because it really is a poignant thing that as soon as the demand gets past a certain level, it's really hard to negotiate that kind of demand. So yeah, I think I think there's multiple ways to go about it, but not one single way that is the perfect way.
No. So here's a question that I think I ask in our sort of small friendship group pretty much at every release. So given that I've not got anything coming as far as I know at the moment, what should be my target price for an ETB on release day? Now, I'm not going to buy it at release. I'm going to see how the market obviously adjusts. But that's something that I will be thinking of is, right, what measures do I need to go now in order to get some of this? For example, when Ascended Heroes came out, didn't get any drops, didn't get anything from card shops locally. The starting price for the ETB was £80. And I remember specifically people saying, just hold on, just wait, it'll come down, it'll come down. And I went out and bought, I think, 2 or 3 ETBs within a couple of days just because I just wanted to lock something in. It never came down from there. And now we're looking at £150 an ETB. Mm, Do you think it could be the same for Pitch Black?
I think Pitch Black will go more the way of Chaos Rising and Perfect Order. I think like there'll be a small premium, but I don't think it will be breaking the bank. It's really sad to say, but you're gonna end up paying a premium because you're working. You can't get to the stores when
Yeah.
when they open. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be an £80 premium. I think it's a mainline set. So you've got booster boxes, which means that you've got a good amount of packs that are going to hit stores. And I think that will help keep the general pack price down for the set. I still don't think you might struggle to get retail, but you might get an ETB for 60, 65, something like that. Nothing towards those 80, 90, that sort of mark. I think it will be a small premium, but you'll be able to get something. But you want retail, right? Like, and the thing about the Pokemon Center, well, here's a question. Do you think that the Pokemon Center should maintain Pokemon Center exclusives? Do you think that that's part of the problem? And if they were to remove Pokemon Center exclusives and just released core ETBs, do you reckon that that'll help resolve it?
This is where I'm going to be incredibly biased because having no luck in any of these Pokemon exclusive products ever, why should I back the need for it to continue? Because I think realistically it would possibly reduce demand even a little bit, probably not by a lot and probably not enough to make things any easier for me. But given that for me, it doesn't necessarily do anything, it just puts an extra layer of exclusivity that I don't think is necessarily needed. So for me, it's an easy just get rid. But I could see it if someone argues the point that it adds a little bit more. Or do you think?
To be honest, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. I'd like to think it would, but we got booster boxes, they're not exclusive, it's just the same. Booster bundles, they're not exclusive, it's just the same. I think people will still want to get access to the product. It will just happen to be slightly cheaper because it's not going to be the exclusive version, so it's got one or two less packs. So I don't think it would make that much of a difference. I was just kind of interested to kind of voice it out and see if there was an angle that you could look at it, and it does. But yeah, I think when you've got, and look, this is extremely negative because obviously we've it's been difficult to get product today. But like we've said, I think before on the pod, on the flip side, there is a positive here, and it is that there are so many people that are collecting Pokemon cards. That is why the card shows are as busy as they are. That's why you can get 1,000+ people going to card shows, turning up to look around the stores, to chat to you, because there is that demand. So where you're going to find it difficult to get product on the Pokemon Center one day, do you give that up for everything else that is a positive in the hobby?
It's a really good point, and that effectively drives the market, and without that, nothing else works. I do get that. I just wish that part of it was that I could at least get something, just something. Give me a booster bundle. It's frustrating, but I take your point, and I think yes, you do have to reflect on the fact that it's booming, just like we knew it would in the 30th year.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to mix up the order of the podcast here, but let's go straight into the Pokecourt, because the Pokecourt, the topic for that today just aligns perfectly with what we've already been speaking about. So, for those who don't know, and maybe this is the first podcast that you are joining in on, we basically pick a topic within the Pokemon TCG and we will debate both sides before coming to our own opinion on which side we fall. And today's topic is going to be around, well, essentially the new process that the Japanese Pokemon Centre are going to use for the purchasing of products from their online store. And that is that they will now be using, well, actually, they're going to be using it from August, a government ID. I believe it's called the My Number card. So they're essentially using a government ID that is required for a purchase from the online store. The idea here is that it reduces the number of people purchasing within Japan and also locks it out from anyone abroad getting access. So firstly, Al, maybe kick us off on what you think to that approach, something a little different to what we've spoken about so far.
I think the most obvious point here is the system that the Japanese Pokemon Center is employing is designed to filter out, negate bot accounts, limit purchases per ID. I can't think of a better way of trying to make it fairer for people. Effectively, it's a victory for true collectors or people like me, it feels like now, that are missing out pretty much every drop. So I think if the system that we have in place was doing better, some of the points that I think are going to come up are quite not aggressive, dystopian is probably the better word. And you could see it as it's far too far and could be off-putting and so many reasons that we'll mention. But actually, I'm at a point now where I think it needs to happen, because otherwise we'll end up, I think the scalping never ends, and I think the demand and the bots never end. So my starting point on this, and I think I'm going to fall this way for the entire Pokecourt segment, is bring it on.
I think it's worth mentioning that for those, again, who don't know how the Japanese system works, they actually do use a lottery system. So this is actually another layer on top of that to get you into the lottery system. So they are kind of going down that, let's just call it the Amazon kind of ballot invitation route. They'll run the lottery and then maybe you're lucky or maybe you're not. This is now another level of the people who can enter that lottery. So it keeps that pool hopefully smaller and more people satisfied, which again is one of the points I'd actually made about the Amazon earlier, that pool can grow to be pretty big if you have no restrictions and there are no issues getting access to request that invite. There'll be a lot of people, crossing their fingers. This again will limit those. I do definitely get your point though. This is really taking it to another level that you are requiring, and let's just put this into plain text here, that you are requiring a government backed ID number to purchase cardboard that is designed for a kid's trading card game online. Like when you say it like that, it seems insane. It seems wild that we've got to a point where we need to be showing identification to get into a lottery to be able to hopefully get our hands on, the wonderful cardboard that we want access to.
I think it's just worth saying that from my research looking into it tonight, it looks like whilst you will need some form of government ID, which, like we've said, will be the My Number ID, it doesn't actually store any sensitive information. So it's a third-party verification system. But I get your point completely on, it seems insane that that's what's needed now for a children's game. But it's so much more than that. And that's why this system is now in place in Japan. I think in the UK, we do have a discouragement of the culture behind IDs and digital ID. And I think it's more that Japan are more open to the idea generally, as to how this has been sort of adapted so quickly. I just know that when it's eventually hopefully suggested to the UK, I can already see the backlash that it's gonna face.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. And I also, I'm going to use my own words here, where I put it into a very extreme term where I was talking about it being a child's game. It is no longer a child's game, right? Because
Mm.
it was a child's game when we were younger, but we've grown up with it and we still love it. So now it is both. It was designed to be a child's game, but it's part of our life, and it's what we've come to love, and it's part of the hobby that we are part of. So it is more than that. And that is where, a good chunk of this demand is coming from, because obviously there is more capital to be put into the game because we all have more disposable income. We have adult money, as they would say. That's what is driving the demand. I mean, I don't know, having a formal ID of some form just for verification will help. Well, it has to help, right? Because unless you're able to duplicate it, and I'm sure they would have a system in place to avoid duplication, it should limit it. It should help prevent some of the bots. But then on the flip side, extreme as this might be, and I don't know, I don't know if this would ever happen, but what happens if someone goes, you know what, I'll sell you my ID so you can get stuff from the Pokemon Center? What sort of avenue does that open up?
That's something that obviously would be worst case scenario for issues that kind of system is going to face, because we have ID now for so many things. It's something that I think would be going forward, hopefully much more adaptable than that. My concern would be for families that enjoy the hobby as a group, and how does a household, I mean, as a household at the moment, you're probably struggling to get the right amount of product for you all to enjoy it anyway. But what happens to children that want to stay involved? What form of ID would they require? Especially under 16s who don't really carry, as far as I'm aware, any form of formal ID. That bit really does need to be cleared up. But I think the benefits of it limiting the bots at the moment are probably we're probably underselling, because the problems that it's causing. And again, it might be that I've just got a completely skewed idea of how many bots and multiple accounts there are. But if it can do anything to clear that up, it's a win in my book.
Yeah, I don't know how it would necessarily work on the back end, but you got to think that it would reduce it, right? Just for the
Uh,
nature of what it is. It's a unique identification. And looking at, like you did mention, and it's a really good point actually, that we do actually use our ID for a lot of other, like other websites, as it were. For example, like we're, a betting site. You have to be over the age of 18. You have to show your identification in order to have access to betting. And we just hand that over, without even thinking about it, because it's just part of the process. And this is something very new, and obviously not with the same sort of, legality around it. But ultimately, it's very much the same thing. If they're not storing the data, it is just simply a verification of, yeah, I'm just an individual, one person, give me access. If that is all it is, it'd be interesting to see how this works in Japan, because if it has had a knock-on effect. But funny enough, since the announcement of that news in Japan, it is around the same time, and we know that there's a lot of other things going on over there, but it is around the same time that we've seen this increase in prices. And some of the people that I bring products in from, their supplies are much smaller, and it might be that people are starting to hold product over there because they're concerned they may not be able to get more of it, or they may not get access to it because of this new process that's coming in. I don't know. Again, it's a lot of speculation, but I think it's really extreme. I'm gonna put myself on one side of the fence here. I think it's really extreme, but right now, given how today went and how the rest of the year's looking with the sets that are coming out, if they brought it in, I wouldn't really say too much about it. I would just go along with it and participate and expect it to improve. So I don't think there's too much of a negative from it, and I think that there could be some positives. So yeah, it's sad to see that it might have to be the case. And it's a shame that it does come in, but if it improves it, I'm probably all for it.
yeah, I think any system that can improve the sort of general experience for fans of the hobby, I'm gonna be all for it. I think how it goes in Japan will largely dictate how the general population will think about it. My thoughts are, if you're given an opportunity to improve a system for the people in general, the only people that will oppose that are the people that are currently taking advantage of it. And I think we may find that there is a bit of kickback, but it will become very obvious who those people are. I'd quite happily stand on the other side of anybody that's taking advantage of a system like this at the moment. So I'm all for change if it means fairness for all. So bring it on. It's just we are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit because we're nowhere near a system like this yet. So watch this space, I suppose.
Yeah, like you said, it is kind of speculation from a case of this country, but obviously it is exactly what is happening in Japan. So yeah, it's a good case study over there, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and what the general thoughts are. But I do think, yeah, I do think that kind of brings us to. I think we're both very, very similar in terms of where we sit. Maybe you slightly more strongly than me, but if it means a change and it means more people who actually want the product get the product, it's hard to argue against it. And in fact, actually, it'd be really interesting to hear your thoughts. You guys, let us know whether you think it is too extreme or whether you would welcome something that is a little bit, a little bit more like this, that does open it up to more people and does eliminate, some of the bot activity or some of the issues that we have. So yeah, we'll see. Okay, we're going to call that court closed. And we're going to move on to something a little lighter than the first half of this podcast. And we're going to go into what's worth more. We have slightly tweaked the name from what it's worth. But Al, are you ready for this one?
Oh, yes. I was pretty mean last week, so I'm just hoping that you're being nice in return.
I cannot promise anything. You cannot promise anything. Some of these, I'm not going to lie, some of these are pretty close. Now, if this is the first time you are listening to the pod, the idea behind this is I give Al a card and I give him a real life item, object, or whatever it might be. And he has to decipher which one is worth more. So we're going to start off. I liked what you did last time, Al, where you worked up from cheapest to most expensive. So we're going to do the same thing today. Now, one of the illustration rares from Ascended Heroes, I know it's one of your favorites, and that is the Erica's Tangler number 218. That is your first card. Okay. And I want you to compare that against a 10-inch Stretch Armstrong.
I wondered where you were going with that then. A Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah,
wow,
I will add a little caveat in here, right? So they've modernized Stretch Armstrong. So it is one of the modern versions. They have a range and it's kind of their retro classic 10-inch.
Fine. Okay, so like most of these, I will take a stab at the card and not know what the Stretch Armstrong's worth at all. So I think having pulled the Tangler and knowing a little bit about it, I assume it is still around the £15 to £20 mark. It may have even gone up a little bit from there. So I'm going to call it £20. The Stretch Armstrong, I wouldn't have a clue without knowing the modern version. But I think personally, you kind of think, well, which one would I want more? And I know the Stretch Armstrong's a fun toy, and we had one as a kid, and we I don't know how it survived, even if it did. But I think I'd personally probably have the card in this instance, and some people might think that's a bit daft. So I'm going to say that I think the Tangler's worth more, so the Stretch Armstrong comes in under maybe £17. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I will say I got some good news to brighten the mood a little bit and say that you are 1 from 1 to start off with.
It's a good start.
Using Pulse TCG in the market price, the Tangler comes in at $18.75, so right in that range that you were talking about. And then the Stretch Armstrong retro 10-inch figurine comes in at $18.59, so literally 16p cheaper. So it's a good start out. It's a good start. And as you said, you're probably taking the card by the sounds of it.
Yeah, on that one, I think the card's for me.
Okay, next up. This one actually isn't a card. We're going to go in with an Evolving Skies booster pack. So just one pack of Evolving Skies, okay? And you are comparing that to the full paperback children's collection of the Harry Potter series.
Really? Ooh, okay. Evolving Skies booster pack
versus 7 books, the full collection. It's labeled the children's collection of the Harry Potter series.
So is it the stories in full, or is it children's adaptations?
As far as I'm concerned, they're in full.
Wow.
Okay. I've obviously not read them, but by the looks of it, they're in full.
Big fan of the Harry Potter series, and when you were revealing it, my mind was really scraping for how much Evolving Skies booster packs have got to. As far as I remember, they were
I would say,
20.
sorry to jump in here. I
No,
would
no,
say
go
they
on.
probably are maybe slightly shortened versions, only mildly, because
Okay.
when I'm looking at the picture, some of those thicker books towards the end look a little thinner. But
Right.
that's all I can
Okay.
really say from the pictures, right?
No, that's fine.
I'm just going on the label.
I don't think it's going to change my mind already on this one. So I think Evolving Skies booster packs are towards the 20. I think I saw them at £28, maybe even 30, but I'm going to call it high 20s. So just in my own mind, then I've got to think: does a 7-book series come to less than £30? With it being Harry Potter, I'd probably say probably not. The factor in the fact that it's Evolving Cries and that booster packs are not great at the best of times, I've got to sort of factor that in, that not every pack has the Moonbryon in. So for me, I am going to say that I would personally, I think, have to take the Harry Potter series. It sounds like a great little pickle if the money's even close.
So it is very close again. And I feel like this one was a little bit of a gimme. You do get this one right as well. So that is 2 from 2. I chose something that was heavily discounted. It's currently on sale. So like the actual value is actually
Oh,
much higher. But the Evolving Skies booster pack comes in at £33.93.
oh, okay. Little.
And the 7-part series comes in at £34. They're 20p more expensive.
Oh wow, these margins are
So
really quite tight.
incredibly close. And I'll be honest, when I was doing this, I was literally thinking of things, looking them up, and they were genuinely this close. Like they were as close as this can be. Okay, number 3. So number 3, I'm going back to sort of when we started getting into the Pokemon TCG again after a bit of a break from when we were kids. Around the Vivid Voltage era, it is going to be the Rainbow Pikachu. So the Pikachu VMAX from Vivid Voltage, that Chunkachu, number
Chunkachu.
188.
Yeah.
Okay. So probably the biggest rainbow chase at the time. We're going to be tasting the rainbow with this one because we're comparing it against 45-gram bags of Skittles. And to be precise, 158 of them. Would you like 158 bags of Skittles or the Rainbow Chunkachu?
Okay, I see what you've done there. Nice little play on the rainbow. 158 packs of Skittles. Is the
Yep.
45 like the standard size? I'm assuming it is.
I think
it
so.
must be.
Yeah.
I'm then thinking, how long would 158 packs of Skittles last me? I'd like to think it's most of the year, but probably not by the time I've started. Okay, so I wouldn't know where to start on the Skittles pricing. Now, the Chunkachu I do have. I master set at Vivid Voltage, and I remember having to pick it up, and I probably paid in the hype around £180. Now, I have a feeling it hasn't done as well since, and it probably still hasn't returned even close to that. So I'm going to say it's probably around. I don't even know. Has it gone up from there? I'm going to say 150 for the Pikachu. As a pack of Skittles going to be less than £1? Probably. Oh, that's probably why it's so close. Sorry, I'm sort of trying to think and voice, and I'm doing a terrible job. So my mind has now gone to sort of, I think it's going to be around 90p a pack, which at 158 is going to be, I couldn't do the math off the top of my head now. So I'm going to say, I think you've cut it incredibly fine again. So I think I'm going to be undervaluing the Pikachu a little bit. So I'm going to say the Pikachu, but I could be well out.
Okay. So this one does go to the Skittles.
Okay.
It does go to the Skittles. You do fall short on this one. So the Rainbow Pikachu actually is £114.27. So a real drop back from its
From grace.
meteoric rise at the time. And the Skittles were 75p per pack. So
right, okay.
158 of them comes in at 118.50. So yeah, I could have made it closer, but I gave a little bit of, I say a little bit of room. It's not that much room, but I gave a little bit of room there.
Which would you have out of those two, regardless of price?
The Pika, I think.
I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I'd have the card. I just don't think I'd need that much Skittles.
Yeah, it's too many. Like
Too
I
many
think
Skittles.
it's too many Skittles. It's skill overload. I don't think I get through all 158, so it's kind of pointless.
That's it.
Okay, we've been going up in value, but we're about to take a big jump in value. Okay, and we are going to revisit a topic that we've already had as part of this game, and we're going to go back to Evolving Skies, but this time we are going with the Moonbryon in a PSA 10. So it is the Umbreon VMAX. That is 215. in a PSA 10 versus a San Luis V hot tub, 13 amp, 40 jets, 6-seater.
Those first few words for the hot tub, I have no idea what you've just said.
It's just the make.
I just
I mean,
heard
I just threw it
hot
in there to
tub
sound fancy.
jets. Wow. Okay. So a Pokemon card or a hot tub, you're saying?
Essentially.
Okay. Pricing up the card then. So a PSA 10 Moonbreon, I think, is about 3,500. I think we mentioned it in one of the previous pods, and we were comparing to the Magikarp, I think, and the Magikarp hit 4, but I think the Moonbreon is still behind. Possibly. I might be talking rubbish at this point. So I'm then thinking hot tubs for 3,500. I mean, without seeing it, is it a particularly fancy hot tub? Can you tell me
It looks
anything on
pretty
that?
good. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Okay.
I mean, it's by no means the top in the range.
Okay, but it's still a hot
And
tub.
again,
And that's,
this one was on discount. I've definitely thrown some discounts out there to kind of like throw things about a bit. So this one was on discount.
But you can discount or not, you can buy it for this amount of money. So
correct. You could go and buy it right now for this amount.
I think this is probably where I will say I would probably have a hot tub over a Pokemon card. But in a PSA 10, I can see why people would go against that. But I think when it comes to the value, I'm going to say that I think you found a hot tub for less than a PSA 10 Moonbreon. So I think the Moonbreon will be worth more. I'm now thinking mind games.
The mind games have failed you. I made the hot tub more expensive. I had 2 to choose from. There was one less expensive and there was one more expensive.
Oh, wow.
I went with the one more expensive. Yeah. So this one, the Moonbreon, you were close. It came in at 3,385 and change. And the hot tub comes in at 3,499 and 99 pence. So basically, yeah, 3,500. So pretty close. But yeah, I was quite surprised that you could get a 6-seater hot tub for that price. Because the one that came in slightly less, not to talk too much about hot tubs on a Pokemon podcast, but that one was like it had like 12 jets and it was a 4-seater. So yeah, this one seemed, a decent discount and as close as I could get to the Umbreon.
Are you taking the Umbreon or are you taking the hot tub?
I think I'm taking the hot tub in this instance.
Fair enough. You can
it's
say the card if you want.
Big ticket item. I think I'm taking the hot tub. Okay, the last one, we're taking another jump. Actually, we're taking more than a jump. We're taking a leap of faith with this one. So this is very specific. So you may already have the value roughly in your mind, but it is a black label bubble Mew. Now, you may have read reports about one selling for a certain amount of money, and that is the one I'm specifically thinking about. Okay, so I'm even targeting exactly which one it is. Okay, so it is a black label bubble Mew that sold for a significant amount of a large amount of money. Or now I thought about this and I wanted to pick a location that we both know fairly well. So down in Swansea, a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 reception, 2nd floor flat that looks over the marina with a sit-out balcony. So you can have a black label bubble Mew or the 2-bed flat. Which one's more expensive and which one would you have?
Just because it's for clarity more than anything, it's to own the flat.
To own the flat.
It's not
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Not rental. You literally will be owning the flat for the price.
So you're right. I have seen this recently. It came up on Reddit or somewhere. I think, if I remember rightly, it was $250,000, give or take. So doing it as a comparison, you're sort of north of 200 in pound sterling. And that for me is just an incredible amount of money. It's insane. For a single slabbed Pokemon card, to be talking house price money is pretty impressive. Now, again, we're into the mind games a little bit because yes, it's Swansea, but you've picked a nice part, and the marina is a great place for some of the real estate, I'm assuming, in Swansea. But it is only a 2-bed flat. I think it's pretty fair to say I would take a 2-bed flat over the Pokemon card in this instance. But I think this is one where you've found one where the 2-bed flat is actually cheaper. So I'm going to say that the Ball Mew is more expensive.
And you'll be correct. Yes, that's exactly what I did.
3.
So the exact sale price was $236,543.
Okay.
Which is just wild considering, right? We're talking about a card that is only 3 years old maximum. Getting that in a black label, although there's not many of them around, you got a much greater chance of doing that than some of the more vintage cards. And comparing that to like a 2-bed flat over the marina. And for those who don't know Swansea, it is one of the nicest places to live down in Swansea in the marina. Yeah, so when you convert it, it's like 176,000 roughly for the card and 172.5 for the flat. So there's a 4K difference. But that just kind of sums up I wanted to add that one in because that just shows the insanity that is going on in this market right now and just ties in everything that we spoke about at the start about kind of like the demand and the difficulties in actually getting product. It's because, there are cards like this doing this, like selling for the price of, accommodation and actually owning the accommodation.
Yeah, house price money. It just shows that the money's coming into the hobby at a rate that we're just not used to, and we talk about it week on week, but it's not slowing down. So it wouldn't surprise me if more of these insane prices are to come, and we'll be comparing bigger and bigger houses as we carry on with the podcast.
So that does mean that you got 3 out of 5 this time, which gives you a perfect 50% so far in the game. So respectable because you got 2 the first time and 3 this time.
Sorry, across 2 attempts, yes.
Across 2 attempts.
I was like, I got 3 out of 5. It's not 50%. Yeah, no. Out of 10, I'm on for 5, spot on. Did you get 3 last week?
I got 3 last week, yeah. So I'm currently sat at 60%, but I've got five games in hand, as it were.
Like we asked for all segments, let us know what you think to this little game. We've definitely had fun putting it together and taking it in turns to sort of test each other's knowledge on all things real life when it comes to pricing, because we don't have a clue. As real life as
Stretch Armstrong is,
That's it. I'm definitely going to go away and have a look at that after this. It's a bit of fun. And if you have any comparisons of your own that you think are worth mentioning, please let us know and we might just include it on the next episode.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so that leads us into our final segment for the show, which is actually a bit of a follow-on from the 30th anniversary segment that we did last week, because as we get closer to the release, we are going to have more and more of card artworks leaked, and it just so happens that a couple of days after we recorded the last episode, we got a glimpse of some new cards. Joel, do you want to explain which ones have come to light?
Okay, well let's just dive straight into the chromatic cards again, because we were fairly critical of them last time, you so more than me. And one of my comments was, I would like to see more. And I'm starting to think that maybe I shouldn't have made that comment because that's exactly what we've got. We've got 2 more, and I bet anyone who's not seen them can almost certainly guess what we've got. We've not only just got 1 Pikachu, but we've actually been giving another Pikachu. So 2 chromatic Pikachus are coming our way. 1 is light, 1 is dark, following the same theme. Again, what's that now? Bringing our Pikachu count to like 33, 34 so far. It's getting ridiculous at this point. But yeah, we're getting a light chromatic Pikachu. We're getting kind of a dark chromatic Pikachu, similar sort of shadings to what we've seen on the Mew and Mewtwo. I'm going to be really controversial here. The dark Pikachu, the purpley one, I actually don't mind it. Looking at it, I actually don't mind it. Out of all of them, I think it's probably my favorite of the 4 chromatic styles. I'm still not sold on this. I think these are going to be coming out as part of like a futuristic box in Japan. How they'll be given to us in English and in what kind of SKU, I'm not so sure. But I believe it's like a 30th anniversary kind of like futuristic box that is going to be released on release day in Japan. And these will be the promos from it. So almost certainly going to be impossible to get at any reasonable value. But Al, what do you think? What's your take?
I'm going to start with the positives.
Okay, that's that done. On to the negatives.
I know. I was so tempted to make a joke, but on the pictures that I've got that I've pulled from Poke Beach, they are high enough resolution where we mentioned it last week. It looks like these cards could have incredible texture. The Pikachu has the more swirl-like effect in the dark. In the light, it looks a little bit more florally potentially as a texture in the background. But outside of that, I'm really struggling to come up with anything else that would make me think at the moment that these are meant to be groundbreaking. I know I can see why the darker one has its pull a little bit more, but just look into. Have you got a picture of them with you there?
I do, yeah. I was just looking at them now.
Look into that Pikachu's eyes and tell me that's not one of the most soulless artworks you've ever seen. It just
what?
Well, both. I've just done it to both, and it's the same effect. I just think there are probably some Pokemon where the futuristic Chrome style probably works a little bit better. Pikachu just didn't need to be it. Like you said, we're getting so many in this set anyway. It's one where I'm looking at it and it just doesn't do anything for me. And you might be at home thinking, well, that's fine. I quite like it, and that's absolutely fine. But we mentioned that we needed to see more of these Chrome artworks for it to really sort of gauge what our thoughts are. And like you, I'm looking at these and going, well, this just got worse.
I'm looking at it now, right? Looking really closely. It looks like they are being heat scanned. And if you look at the darker one, it's got like that kind of red belly. It looks like it's just really warm. And if you look at the light one, it's got like a greeny color. It looks like it's just really cold. It just like the whole coloring and the whole effect on it just seems very, very strange. However, I do think out of all of the artworks that we've seen in terms of the chromatic style, I do think this purple Pikachu, the darker one, is probably my favorite if I had to, if I had to pick one. They're almost kind of like resembling Monopoly pieces, like metal Monopoly pieces that you could move around a board. That's what it feels like. They feel like game pieces as opposed to actually cards themselves. You know what's going to happen, right? We're just going to get a Charizard one next.
I think you're absolutely right. And I don't think it's going to look any better.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit disappointed that they have gone down the route of more Pikachus. And if we're really picking holes in it, Mew and Mewtwo, they're two separate Pokemon. You're featuring two separate Pokemon and two different cards, one light, one dark. Again, if we're trying to find positives from it, you are showing two separate Pokemon. They've literally gone, we need two more light and dark. Why don't we just do two Pikachus? It's like they just sat down in a meeting and gone, anyone got any other ideas? No? Okay, another Pikachu it is
Another
then.
Pikachu. Any objections? No, 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 no.
That has worked well in the past.
Yeah.
Next, we'll just get two Eevees and then a Zard, and they'll just split it down the middle, and half the card will be dark and half the card will be like, I don't know. Like, it just is boring, right?
I wouldn't say it's boring because I can see, at least in part, what they've tried to go with. I just think it's the finish just doesn't seem right. And we've had to preface this a little bit with, if these are chrome shiny cards where the scan or the imagery isn't a true reflection of how it looks, we could be doing a bit of a 180 on these, but they'd have to be really quite impressive in terms of the chrome reflection for that to be the case. Yeah, I'm still hesitant. I don't want to see any more of these, I don't think, but I think we may get to see a few more. But it's a different case for the Umbreon and Espeon. What are your initial thoughts on those? Or do you want to explain to people what they are as things stand?
Okay, so again, we've been spoiled with a couple more leaks, and it is an Espeon with daytime 30th in the clouds, and then an Umbreon at nighttime 30th in fireworks, ultimately. I believe these are going to be as part of premium deck sets in Japan. Don't know how it's going to be split up again in English. But looking at these two, I like these cards. I'm excited for these. I would quite happily have these in the set. The worst bit about them is quite literally that Pikachu 30th stamp, as we've commented in the previous pod. But the artworks on these are awesome. I think that they're really good because not only are they featuring a lot of Pokemon cameos in the background, there is a nice little link to Mewtwo being in the back of the Umbreon, and a little Mew very hidden actually in the back of the Espeon. I think the landscaping and the whole composition of it's really cool. I think the 30th in the sky is a nice way of adding the 30 to the card. Don't think it needed the stamp, but I can see why they're using that to kind of continue the set. But yeah, I like these cards. I'm happy to see some like a unique design. It's not a reprint. We've gone over reprints in the past. It's good to have them in this set, but it's good to get new cards that are celebrating the 30th without being a reprint. And that's exactly what these two are doing.
I'm going to mirror that right back at you. I think these look incredible. I just think they've kind of dropped the ball with some of the Chrome cards and have picked it right back up with these. And my only concern is that these are going to be cards that become the clear favourites potentially in a set like this, which makes them incredibly difficult to get. We'd love a hidden Pokemon, and I'm just looking at it now and trying to count, but I think it's one where the more you look, the more there is to see. There's more than 10 Pokemon on each. The distinction between the night and day is actually so clean on these as well. I just think, we know that evolution cards do really well. You've seen what Umbreon cards go for. We've talked about the PSA 10 from Northern Skies now at 3,500. This is just feeding right into that hype. I think these are going to be great.
What I will do is just hold the brakes slightly on these, and we gotta kind of carry sentiment from one thing to another. And where I'm blasting them for doing too many Pikachu's, evolutions,
You're going
it
to do the
is,
same.
we've got them again.
Yeah.
And it is no surprise if you're going to come out with you need some big cards, just drop a couple of evolutions on there. I think where I like these cards the most is having those Pokemon in the background, having that 30th in the sky. Yes, the Umbreon and the Espeon are, they're pretty Pokemon to have on the card, but it's the whole card that I really like. The Chrome ones, they got energy balls in the background, doesn't excite me, but these have something in the background, and these are really more kind of artistic collector pieces and something that I'd want to have in my collection. But again, it is, when I say boring, I'm not necessarily saying boring in that they're trying to be innovative and think of something. It is just the same Pokemon after the same Pokemon after the same Pokemon. But I'm gonna let them off on this one because they delivered good cards.
I've been looking at this for several days and I'm still seeing new things on it. I think a lot of fans are going to be doing the same. Yeah, great cards. Do you think this bodes well for the remaining set that's yet to be revealed?
At this point, I feel like, all bets are off because I didn't see them delivering these cards. I kind of saw maybe more Chrome cards coming along, and sure enough, they did that in the worst possible fashion by just having two Pikachus. But I didn't see them delivering something quite like this because it's not often they actually put like the number on the card, but they've done it in a way where it's part of the artwork and it's not just like okay, they got the stamp on there. But I really like what they've done with that. It makes it a little bit more unique, and it does obviously tie in quite nicely to the 30th celebration. So they could come out with more of these. They could come out with more illustration rares, special illustration rares. I don't know what they've got left. I'm actually excited to see what might come at this point because if they're going to bring this and they're revealing it now, what are they holding back? What is there left to see? I think we could be in for a few more treats. I just hope that it's not more Chrome cards at this point.
Yeah, I think you've taken the words out of my mouth. I'm actually really optimistic to see the rest of the set now, but I'm really cautious that we're just going to see Pikachu's left, right, and center, or Chrome cards that we don't like. So I'm cautiously optimistic, and I think a lot of people are going to be in the same position.
What if the Chrome cards were metal? Does that change your opinion?
That's a really good point because, as far as I'm aware, the only other metal cards were the 25th celebrations. Is that right? Have they done any since?
There was one Mew.
Oh, the Mew, of course.
In the UPC.
151. I think it would swing me a little bit, purely in that they would be leaning into this new aspect of a style that they've not done before. Whether it would add an element of it looking any different, I'm not sure. But I would be very interested to see how they'd look and feel, because ultimately that's what it would bring to it, is the feel of the card, not just how it looks. I'm not going to say it's going to completely change my mind on them, but it would definitely give me a new sense of admiration for them. I could get behind them a little bit more. Do you think it changes things for you?
I think I go the other way. I think which seems wild considering how negative we have been around them. I think it would send me the other way, because where you may get the front being with the chromatic, I can see how a metal card would fit quite nicely with the style. Totally get that. I've never really liked the metal cards though. The backing of the metal cards has never really looked that good. You can't use them in the game, and ultimately I'd rather them make a really cool metal coin as a collector piece and keep the cards as the cards. And so I'd be a little disappointed if these ended up being metal cards. I'm still hanging on to the hope that the texture is as good as it looks when you zoom in, because I really like textured cards, and that will elevate these for me. It will elevate them. They will feel very different in hand, and I think they will be better than how we're describing it right now. How much better will be interpreted at the time. But if they go down the route of metal cards, I think that just makes it even worse. And at that point, I just have no interest in them whatsoever. So yeah, I think I go the other way.
Yeah, and I completely get that. And I actually think more people will be on your side, because the metal cards never really seem to have caught the attention of many people. For me, it just makes them a little bit more unique, and that's enough for me to at least consider it. But we've said so many times, we need to see how it looks. We need to see copies and see how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited for what the 30th has to bring. And you know what's going to happen? We've recorded it on a Wednesday, and by the time we go to release this, we'll probably have a few more leaks to talk about next time.
If you like your news 5 days out of sync, you found the right podcast, and it will probably be that there's an update every week from now until it releases in September. So, there's more to come, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think that's a good place to end it. So why don't we end it the same way as we always do? Al, where can everybody find you?
People can find me at Hook Cards on Instagram. We finally posted. I'm managing to organize that a bit alongside the podcast now. So thank you for all those that have followed. For yourself, Joel?
You can find me at Pokecourt UK. We have a website and we're also on eBay. And of course, for the podcast, at Binder and Brew. Al, thank you again for joining me this evening. I've had good fun chatting, and thankfully the second half made up for the first half.
I feel better now. I've vented to the world, so I'm at peace for at least another 24 hours.
But it's been a pleasure, everybody. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time.
See you later.